Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Batrisyia binti Muhammad AZHAR, matric number 203177440. Today, I will show you guys how to create table and drop table in the SQL. First, we need to drop all the table before beginning to the creating table process, so that we can remove all the existing table in the SQL. The keyword we use is drop table, followed by the table's name. Next, I will show you guys how to create the table. So, how to create table? The format is, we need to use the keyword create table followed by the table name. And then, we need to put the primary key as the first attribute, followed by the other attribute. And then, behind the attribute name, we need to put the data type. Now, we will create table for program. Create table program ID as the primary key, and it is using integer as the data type, followed by other attributes such as program name using string, description using string, start date and end date using data type date, kuliah ID using data type integer, budget using data type decimal. Here we put 10 and 2. 2 is for the decimal number of decimal. 10 is for the total number of integer that we can be put in front of the decimal. Next, status using data type string. The foreign key in this program is kuliah ID. Next, we will create table for table activity. The primary key is activity ID using data type integer, program ID using data type integer, activity name using string as the data type, start time and end time using timestamp data type, location using string, person in charge using integer, status using string, and the foreign key is program ID. Next, we will create table for person in charge, and the primary key is person in charge ID, and the data type is integer. Next, the attribute is person in charge name, and the data type is string, followed by role and contact info, and both of them is using the data type string. Next, we will create the table for student. The first attribute is student ID as the primary key, and the data type is integer. Other than that, student name, email, disability type is using string as the data type. Kuliah ID, data type is integer. And the foreign key in this table is kuliah ID. Next, we will create table for registration. Create table registration. The primary key is registration ID using data type string, student ID and activity ID using data type integer, and then date of registration using data type date. And then the foreign key in this table is student ID and activity ID that can be referred in the student and activity tables. Next, we will create table for budget. Create table budget, and the primary key is budget ID using data type string, program ID using data type integer, allocated amount and utilized amount and remaining amount using decimal with 2 decimal point. The foreign key in this table is program ID. Next, we will create table for feedback. Create table feedback, and the primary key is feedback ID using the data type string. The foreign key in this table is student ID and program ID.
My name is Malaysia binti ISHAK. My metric number is 2318724. So today I will present to you guys how to insert data into a table in SQL. How to insert it? Okay, first we use insert into command. Insert into, we have a table name followed by the value and have a bracket. So in the bracket we will insert the data that's separate by the comma. You can see in the example. So let's start with the first step. Let's start with the kuliah. Okay, this table represents you the various academic kuliah that involved in our event. First, for the attribute, we have the kuliah ID as a primary key. So kuliah ID will store the unique identifier for each kuliah. We have kuliah name, also location and contact info. Moving on, we will see the program table. Okay, for the program table, it contains the information about the program or event that happening. First, we have a program ID as a primary key, so it is the unique identifier for each program. So we have a program name, program description that provide a brief description about the program. Also, we have a start date and end date. For the start date and end date, we will use a special command. It is a 2D. We can see in the example. Then we have a kuliah ID as a foreign key, so it links the program to the respective kuliah. Then we have a budget attribute, also a status attribute that whether it's approved or pending. Now, let's go to the activity table. Okay, for the activity table, we insert into the activity table. We have the activity ID. It is the primary key, so it have a unique identifier. So we have a program ID as a foreign key that links the activity to the program. Also, we have the activity name, start time and end time. Okay, for the start time and end time, we also use a special command. We use a timestamp. You can see in the example. Then we have a attribute location, person in charge ID. It's also a foreign key that will link the person responsible to the program for the activity. Then we have a status. For the status, it's either the plan, partially complete or completed. Now, we can see the person in charge table. So this table lists the individuals that are responsible for each activity. We can see first attribute, we have person in charge ID. For the person in charge ID, of course, it is a primary key because it have a unique identifier for each person in charge. We have person name, role, and contact info that provide the contact email for the person. Okay, now let's not forget about the student table. For this, we can see the student list that with the disability who will participate in our program. First, we have student ID as a primary key, so it contains the unique identifier. We have student name, kuliah ID as a foreign key, so it links each student to their kuliah. We also have email and also disability type. Moving on, we will see the registration table. So to create the or to insert the data to the registration table, first for the attribute we have the registration ID. So this is as a primary key that will store the unique identifier for each registration. Then we have student ID. Student ID as a foreign key that links the registration to the respective student. Also, next we have the activity ID as a foreign key that link to the registration with a specific activity. Last but not least, we have the date of the registration. So for the date, we will use the to date command. We have a budget table. So this table will manage the finance of our event. For the budget table, the attribute is budget ID as a primary key. So it will store the unique identifier for each budget. Then we have a program ID as a foreign key that link the budget to the specific program. Also, we have allocated amount, utilized amount, and remaining amount that will show all of our budget. Okay, last but not least, to the feedback table. So the feedback table, we're going to insert the feedback ID as a primary key, student ID as a foreign key, program ID as a foreign key that link to the program table. Then we're going to insert the program effectiveness rating, time allocation rating, speaker quality rating, and impact rating to the feedback table.
My name is AZIRA and my metric number is 2316826. And today I will be presenting about the first three query of our SQL. So for the first query we actually want to retrieve the information about the programs and activities roughly. So this query extract and sorts the specified columns including kuliah, name, program ID, name, date of program, activity ID, activity name, start time and also end time. So we select the column from three different tables which are kuliah, program and also activity table. For the date and time, we use toChar to change the form to string so that it readable and standardized. And after that, we rename all the columns back and we join the table program with kuliah and also activity with program because the one we join on have the foreign key related. So lastly, we sort it by using program ID and activity ID. So when we run the query, it will appear 12 rows. So for the second query, this query actually retrieves the student ID and student name for each activity in the program. So the displayed columns will be the one we select, which are program ID, program name, activity ID, activity name, student ID, and also student name too. So we select manually from program table and join the activity and students table on it by using left join. So it will ensure all records from previous join are included and matching it. So if not, it will contain null value. So the last part, we sort it based on program ID. So when we run, we will see 50 rows selected and you can see multiple students registered in the same activity too. For the third query, actually in this query we want to see the average feedback rating for each program. So we select the program ID from the feedback table and use round average function to get the average of each column, which are the program effectiveness rating, time allocation rating, speaker quality rating, and also the impact rating. So we rename back all the selected column for the average, and the group by clause ensures that these average are calculated for each unique program ID in the feedback table. So there are 6 rows selected when we run it.
My name is HANIS binti AZHAR, metric number 2312128, and I will present to you about the queries. So for the query 4, which is this program with remaining budgets, this query aims to provide information about the remaining budget for each program. It extracts the program ID, program name, and remaining amount by subtracting the utilized amount from the allocated amount from the budget table. The join statement connects the program and the budget tables using the program ID. So for the query 5, which is display students registered in each activity, this query is designed to showcase students registered in each activity. It presents the ID, activity name, student ID and student name. The join statement connect the activity, registration and student tables based on the corresponding ID. The data is sorted by the activity ID for better presentation. So for the query 6, which is list active students and their disabilities, this query extracts information about active student and their disabilities. It retrieves student ID, student name, disability type and the kuliah name. The join statement connects the student and kuliah tables based on the kuliah ID. So for the last query, which is the query 7, which is list activities with program details, this query provides details about activities including activity ID, activity name, associated program ID, program name, and the corresponding kuliah name. The join statement link the activity, program and kuliah tables based on their respective ID.